Thank you. Thank you. New York State of Mind, familiar place, home. So I'm going to be talking about home. The home that's in here. So carrying through with our exploration of the Gospel of Q, we're up to this phrase from Luke. Ask, and it will be given to you. That actually was a pretty dramatic new thought 2,000 years ago. Ask, and it will be given to you. Bang, it's an abundant universe. All you have to do is ask. There it is. A lot of us have trouble believing that. We know it's true at some level, and yet I bet everybody has a little bit of evidence piled up somewhere where there was a time when that didn't happen. Anybody else have evidence like I do? That I asked, and I didn't seem to get exactly what I wanted. Well, there's a metaphysical trick, of course. And the other question is asking praying? Is praying a form of asking? Probably our first prayer was asking. I still ask for stuff in prayer. Now, what I want to do is explore that a little bit and get to the metaphysical trick, or the metaphysical understanding is probably a better word than metaphysical trick. All right, is asking praying? Well, what do you really want? That's the question. What do you really want? There's a group of us who study nonviolent communication, and we've been practicing it for years. Ever since they started it before I came here, but since I've been here, that's been about 5.5 years, we've studied it. And here's the deal about nonviolent communication. There's a model of looking at what you need. And it takes looking at something that you want and finding an underlying need. For example, let me explain. Let's just say that I'm praying for a new car. And I'm praying for a new car. But in NVC, the practice would be to work with an aspect of self-awareness and discover the underlying need. Discover the underlying need. So if I'm praying for a new car, what might I need? Well, when I was 21, if I wanted a car, the need would probably be for autonomy. Perhaps it would be to get me to work, which would represent security to me. Maybe the need was for security. Maybe let's just say, in the single years of my life, I wanted a flashy car because I thought it might attract a partner. I'm thinking a little red Corvette, right? So maybe that need represented connection or safety, because maybe, if I really work with it, I don't, I want connection, but I want like my very own, person. Why do I want my very own person? Maybe it's safety. Now, the reason that this is a really great spiritual practice is because you're working with your underlying need, and then when you get to something like, let's say I think I want a car, and I realize that what I want is a connection. I realize that the car is not my only way to get a connection, right? So bang, that's an abundant universe. If I actually get to the underlying need, there's thousands, if not millions, of ways to meet that need. It doesn't mean I shouldn't pray for the car, okay? Hear me about this. I'm not saying don't pray for cars. You can pray for all the cars you want to. Now, in Unity, we have something we call affirmative prayer. there was a book that Charles and Cora Fillmore, who is the second Mrs. Fillmore, wrote called Teach Us to Pray. And this is what's written in that book. Humans throughout history have been seeking for a connection to God. And that connection can only be reached by true prayer. True prayer is going within and quieting the mind and allowing God to come into conscious awareness. They write further about true prayer. Quietly entering the inner chamber within the soul, shutting the door to external thoughts of daily life, and seeking conscious union with God is the highest form of prayer we know. So, go quiet, seek conscious union with God. That's the highest form of prayer. So, spending time to go within, to use self-awareness, takes us to peace of mind. Peace of mind, is that what we're really praying for? Every time? H. Emily Cady writes in Lessons in Truth that in every human being there is a great longing that can only be filled by God. Okay? It can only be filled by connecting to God, by union with God. So she talks about it as a God-shaped space. Right? So that there's something in you, and I'm going to say it's yourself. It is the Christ in you. It's not the God outside of you. It's the God inside of you. It's the coming home, It's that space. So again, it's the taking time. It's using that self-awareness. Spending time in the silence, looking for that God-shaped space, takes us to an abundant universe, which takes us to peace of mind. Now, Myrtle Fillmore, who is one of the co-founders of Unity, along with Charles, writes this: prayer is simply an exercise to change our thought habits and our living habits. May Rowland, another who was a past director of Silent Unity, which is the organization that prays for people who need prayer. They're there 24 hours a day. They've been doing it for many years. One of the best things about prayer is that it awakens and arouses within you the self that is capable of standing regardless of what comes. That's a powerful. One of the best things about prayer, the self that is capable of standing regardless of what comes. Catch the theme that prayer is about changing us, even though it involves asking many, many times. Okay? You want something different, whether it's specific or general. Prayer is about asking, and the asking is actually good, okay? Because it leads us to here. It leads us to home. So never get down on yourself for wanting something different. If you're willing to spend the time with the self-awareness to really work with it. Okay? Now, if I'm praying for a car and I don't spend time figuring out what I want, why I want a car, and I'm just focusing on the car and I'm visualizing red Corvettes in my mind and I'm making treasure maps about red Corvettes, and that may not work. I may or may not get a red Corvette in my life, right? The spiritual part of that is to take every desire or every need and find where it leads. It's a treasure map to our real self. It's a treasure map to our Christ self. Now, I found a really good reading in the Mark Nepo book, the Book of Awakening. This happens to be July 21st. It's a couple days ago. I want you to listen to this. To me, it's a different way of praying, right? It's a different way of exploring, of looking for what you want. This one is called Revealing Who We Are. No bird can fly without opening its wings, and no one can love without exposing their heart. It is perhaps the oldest of inner laws, as inescapable as gravity. There is no chance of lifting into any space larger than yourself without revealing the parts you hold closest to your chest. Anytime you hesitate revealing who you are, picture yourself as a bird perched on a roof, wings tucked at your sides. To enter a relationship without opening your heart is to jump off that roof without spreading your wings. It's a really good metaphor, isn't it? How often do we enter relationships? I don't know. I still protect my heart. I mean, I notice that sometimes I protect my heart with people I've been around a long time, or, not just strangers who are coming into my life. And so it's like, I love this metaphor. To enter a relationship without opening your heart is to jump off that roof without spreading your wings. It's true that baby birds hesitate the first time out of the nest. But once tasting the air, it is their nature to open and rise, close and land. This is their life. It is ours too. The paradox, of course, is that we must trust that the power to lift and land for us is in revealing what we hide. Once revealed, these tender things become our wings. So that is what prayer is all about. Okay? Prayer is about going inside and using the asking, the wanting, whatever it is, and revealing what's there. You don't even need to reveal it to anybody else, but we do need to reveal it to ourselves, because every time we get to the real part of us, that's when we're connected to all that is. God, Spirit, Jesus, Buddha, okay? When we get to the part we want to hide, I always want to come here and be my best self. I want to look good. I want to sound good. I don't want to say, I want to make a joke that people laugh at. And at the same time, I want to be my real self. And I want to do that every day with everybody. And yet, I cannot tell you how, even for years of practicing to open my wings, how often I'm, this is me, the bird, like, okay, hi, how are you? I'd like to meet you. I'd like to have a conversation with you, right? Because if I open my wings, it might hurt. Well, there's so many ways to pray, All the theologians, all the monks, the mystics, all the nuns, all the teachers, all of the people who want to teach us this stuff have a million different ways to pray. Hey, you can stand in front of the gong, if you come to the gong bath on Tuesday at noon, and that is a way to pray. Because you don't always need words. Words work for a lot of people. Words work for me many, many times. But so does standing in the energy of whatever it is that was, I don't even know what to call it, but somehow it moves me strangely, right? It touches a part of us. Listening to our Unity trio play music, that also touches us. Listening to the poetry of Mark Nepo, reading the poetry, walking in nature, all these things get to us, right? They get to us and they make us open our wings so that we can jump out. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it. That's why this person, Jesus, 2,000 years ago, this was a radical thought. It wasn't really in the culture at that time. Ask and it will be given to you. Ask and it will be given to you. It was more like, keep your nose clean and hang out with your right tribe and don't get in the way of the Roman soldiers. 2,000 years ago in Palestine at that time. So it really is a radical thought. Ask and it will be given you. That means ask. And I'm saying it's important. Think of all the things you want to ask for. Ask and it will be given to you. As long, this is my caveat, you've got to have the self-awareness, Use it with the self-awareness. Now, a Buddhist practice about praying, or I don't even know if they would call it praying, would be to work with an aspect of self-awareness and stay with the not having what you want, okay? So let's just say, I can best explain this with a cookie. Let's just say this is a practice with a cookie. Maybe for some reason I have the thought that today I don't want to eat sugar, and of course, I bet you, it's almost automatic. I want a cookie. Almost as soon as I say I'm not going to have any sugar today, I can see a chocolatey chip cookie with nuts, fresh out of the oven. I'm not really trying to make everybody want cookies, but too late, yeah. But it's like that's what pops into my brain. Now, a Buddhist practice would, one way, I've talked about the praying for it way, using some self-awareness to pray. What do I really want? That I might want some sweetness in my life. I want to feel satisfied. I might want, who knows? I could take it that way. The Buddhist practice would be to sit for a bit and be with the not having it, Because as soon as you want something, it's because you think you don't have it. So to spend time with self-awareness, not having whatever it is, that's also a way of getting to the real you, spending time with not having what you want. I want to read this from Pema Chodron, who's, of course, one of my spiritual heroes. Patience has nothing to do with suppression. In fact, it has everything to do with a gentle, honest relationship with yourself. If you wait and don't fuel the rage with your thoughts, rage might seem strong about not having a cookie, but whatever it is we don't have, I guarantee you there's a little bit of rage in us. If you wait and don't fuel the rage with your thoughts, you can be very honest about the fact that you long for revenge. Nevertheless, you keep interrupting the torturous storyline and stay with the underlying vulnerability. That frustration, that uneasiness, and vulnerability is nothing solid, and yet it is painful to experience. Still, just wait and be patient with your anguish and with the discomfort of it. That's the Buddhist practice. To let it be and be patient with yourself and the anguish and the discomfort. This means relaxing with that restless, hot energy of not having what you want, that's so painful. Knowing that it's the only way to find peace for ourselves or the world. Before I end with a poem that I wrote, because I'd like to pretend I'm Mark Nepo sometimes, is I want to just, it almost doesn't need to be said, but I'm going to say it anyway. Okay, it's critical in a world where every week, for the last 3 weeks, I've had to put a different place where we're praying for people who are suffering violence, Okay? It makes me cry a little bit, but in a world like that, I tell you, it is such our job to be gentle with ourselves, to pray however it is that we pray, to be gentle with ourselves, to do this work, because I assure you that when anybody here does any of this work, it is working to make the world a peaceful place. This is very real, very, very real. You have no idea how your gentleness with yourself someday will affect somebody who you come in contact with, and that will affect somebody else you come in contact with, and will reach all over the world. So it is important. This is important holy work, for not just for ourselves, but for the whole world. Here's my little poem. Instructions for today. Before you do the next thing, gently stop. Tenderly discover what is here now. With soft eyes, notice what is arising. Lovingly uncover what is underneath. Wait until you can feel willingness, and as joy forms itself into bubbles that burst your resistance, you are once again entwined in life. I'm in. So let's take an offering for unity. And I happen to know that the next song that's going to be played is If It Takes Forever. So I want you to ask yourself this question. Who is it to you that's saying, I will wait forever for you? Okay? Who is it that's waiting forever for you? So let's take an offering for unity. And we're going to